When I was born, I had a godmother, and she wrote books about me. Books, literally hand wrote out books and made multiple copies of them. And I was a British boarding school kid who went and would meet the Queen. Whatever upper middle class-ish people, particularly in the South, and I was in Virginia at the time, and many of my family members were Southern. There's a lot of posturing, and there's a lot of like identity politics and like what classism, and it's really pretty toxic. And it's particularly simple when you develop an idea of who you are in relation to being above other people. It's sick. Now, I carried this for much of my life, sort of not knowing it. There were many ways in which it was reinforced, and that was there was just like an intrinsic sense of victory. When I got to college, it came really easily, and I won student body races and such, and ended up feeling like a degree of just entitlement that was so deep that it was just like I carried it with me. And I was kind and gracious and loving in so many ways, but I was coming from this space of classist entitlement. I remember one kid who I didn't know well, but I respected him from afar. He was his unique self. And we went away on spring break at one point, and he had gone and lived on the street for a week. And he did it on purpose, and he wrote about it. And I was so impressed. I remember being just stunned by like that's something. That would be difficult. Over the course of the next 10 years, that became me. I appreciated and respected people who could walk in many different ways, and I wanted to learn how. And as I did, I came to realize that it was sort of crucial medicine for me. I needed to say no to this inheritance that I'd received, which was toxic. It was tainted by the negative karma of like the classes in the United States that were the origins of slavery and the abuse of Native Americans. And I had to say no to all of that to get in touch with a deeper truth. As I started to realize it was working well, I committed to learning to teach everything I could as efficiently as possible. I watched many healers and teachers, what I felt like they were drawing things out. They were like, keep paying me, keep paying me, keep paying me. There was this one teacher in particular who I remember literally having a dream. Literally having a dream. I had a dream that his protege student, his like highest respected student, kept driving across a bridge, and the teacher kept sending him back, and he would drive across and the teacher would send him back again and again and again. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. The dude is getting off on his power. And so I committed to finding that perfect balance where I could be as supportive as possible, where I could give the best guidance and insight that there is, everything that I had, but in a way that's good, in a way that's as empowering and supportive of you as it can be. And that's what this is. This class time is a way to bring together a community of people who are learning. And then there's a series of videos that gives you a wide range of the lessons that are necessary for you to shift your consciousness, to appreciate how this world works and where it's going. And that's the channelings and many of the other videos on this Wildflower Fire channel. And then if you want to go deeper, we have courses. And these courses are going to teach you to put it into practice, literally teach you how to have a spiritual practice. And as you go through them, you can take your time to embody the best of what I've learned. I did this as efficiently and effectively as I could. And it took years to put it together in a way that ideally can support as many as people as possible. So if you have the interest, please check it out. Sacred Creatures. Course, go to the courses page on the website, and there's an overview of the 3 courses, which together make a teacher training. So you can do the first course on its own. It will help you establish your own personal practice, which is the greatest liberation that I have found in my life. And hopefully we're giving it to you in a way that's going to bring you into the life you most want to and deserve to live. Today, we're going to, first of all, half an hour through, we're going to take a break. I've got something cool to show you over here. A neat yoga trick. And it's not a trick. It's an addition to your practice that I think many of you probably have not tried. And it's fun. It's really fun to build in as normal. And furthermore, we're going to go through some of the most amazing and difficult lessons. This is the most extreme and most practical day we're going to have in quite a while. So we're trying to bridge the gap between why do you need to know this stuff? Like, why? This is not just a way to be excited or interested or fascinated. This is not a time suck. This is how to transform your consciousness to live a much better life and to learn how to see your challenges and life patterns in a deeper perspective that offers a lot of healing and liberation. Now, the Hindus know this is liberation. They call it liberation. Moksha is a form of spiritual liberation, and this is what we're going for. Likely as not, you've developed a concept of nirvana, samadhi, different, but nonetheless, you've developed concepts of enlightenment. And I'd like you to set these things aside for the moment because, quite frankly, it's not the same as it used to be. Now, we're going for the same depth of configuration of consciousness. We're going for the same liberation, literally to be liberated from our karma. And we're a lot closer than human beings used to be. And for a variety of reasons, I believe you can take it to the next level by embracing exactly what's happening right now in the world and then learning to see your own life in this perspective. So before we get into that, I'm going to say a little highs. Gene, good to see you. Bobby, thank you for being here. I love the emoji. Excellent. Martha, thank you for being here. Good morning to you. The Love It All channel, it's good to see you. What a great name. Thank you for being here. Sarah, bless your heart. Thank you for being here. Sarah, honor Sarah. Thank you. Hello. Cosmic Man, welcome back. Good to see you, man. Emiliano, thank you so much. Emiliano's been writing a new mailing. If you're not on the mailing list, visit the website, hop on. Emiliano's writing a really good one. I really appreciate it. Tom, thank you for being here. Help Theory. Welcome. Angie, good morning to you. It is awesome to have you here. Oh, I got you. I got your Chakra Keys book and I'm working through it. I am letting go of my 25-year accounting career. Oh, bless your hearts. Thank you. Thank you. And let us be with you. I cannot encourage you enough to explore the many other gifts that we've got, particularly the course. What you need to do is get this attunement to a healthy vibe. It is terrifying how simple shifting cancers can be. Now, certainly it doesn't always apply to every single one, but think of it this way. The easiest way to begin approaching, and this is so obvious. Imagine you have a journey. You got to cross the mountains and you have a 100-pound load of stones on your back. It's going to be easier if you let go of the stones. Now, people aren't inclined to think of health in this simple a fashion, but imagine if we did. I was convinced when COVID started that there was going to be a radical surge of, a commitment to health. And maybe it happened, but it wasn't loud. I was stunned because it's so straightforward. If we might get sick, hey, let's get healthy enough to be able to contend with it, to be ready. When people are afraid of some kind of health challenge, doesn't it make sense to be well in all the ways we can? Because then our body is that much more prepared to deal with whatever's happening. But for whatever reason, our psychology in this culture that we share doesn't seem to work like this. And it's absurd. So by all means, goodness gracious, we need hospitals and doctors, but don't let them take over your mind, because in so many cases, there's a lot more we can do to be healthy, to liberate ourselves from the rocks we carry, the burdens that are there that weigh us down. I wish I knew how to make my notifications shut up. I'm sorry about this. I'm sure there's a way. Stop texting me. Go away. Ah! Okay, enough of that. May we be with you. Love every channel. May we be present as you go through these. I've been through surgeries of other forms, and it can be a daunting experience. Keep your heart, be present with the love that guides and remains with you always, and allow it to transform you in this time. May this be a transformational time, and may the other side be much better. All right. Ruby, thank you for being here. Good to see you. Jez, hello. I'm glad to have you back. All right, people. Over the past couple months, the channelings have gotten increasingly specific, and I would like to help make this practical. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but every week I'm trying to integrate the lessons from this previous week's channeling into a more direct way that you can apply to your life. But today, it's going to be even deeper. Be present with these. There are many traditions on the world, and it's simplest to ascribe a color to each. In many ways, it's direct. The skin color of many folks relates to the hue of the spirit that our culture brings to life. And we're learning to create a rainbow. We're learning to generate a rainbow in the world in a way that is blessed. And it's hard. It's challenging to transcend the boundaries of how we've known our reality to work and then add these other ways of being. So when we do, sometimes it's more effective if you treat it on a practical level. We can engage it from the idea of bringing together different hues of energy, but this can be a little bit abstract. On a practical level, other cultures have lessons we need, pure and simple. And one of the easiest ways to relate to this is through the yogic and Buddhist cultures. They have an intrinsic relationship with karma. Now, it's here, sort of. Cause and effect is a hermetic doctrine that has been woven through esoteric Christianity, but it's not in the heart of how we do things. And a recognition and a respect for past lifetimes was annihilated from the Christian tradition. So I'm going to anticipate, based on my viewer data, that the majority of the people who watch this channel were raised Christian. Thank you for everyone who wasn't. It's probably not that much more than 60%, but I want you to be present, because those of you who were not raised Christian may well have medicine for those of us who were. The medicine comes in a pretty simple form. There were lies intrinsic in the Christian doctrine. Now, I love Jesus. A lot of traditions who don't have Jesus need Jesus, in my opinion. But the real Jesus, the simple, I don't want to take this deep, just be present. 300 years after Christ's death, 324 AD, there was something called the Nicene Convention. In this convention, they rewrote Christianity. It had been something for 300 years. It had evolved in a free-form, wild, and intense form, where many of the people who lived it were under constant threat of death from the Romans. They were brutal. They threw Christians to the lions as sport. And those who thrived in this environment were very special, intense human beings, and many of them were women. There was an intrinsic awareness of the presence of the past. Gnostic Christianity has all sorts of references to past lifetimes and doctrines, understandings of spiritual reality that can arguably be understood as karma. But when the Nicene Convention came around, this is the time when the Roman emperor said, "You will all now be Christians." That's how he did it. He ordered the empire to convert. And so they were very political. And they gathered all the different stories and all the different texts that had been understood and shared as what Christianity was. And they buried most of them. And in a certain respect, this is literal because they essentially cut. They said, we're only going to focus on this and we're going to make all this disappear. And many of the people who believed in the texts that were being buried literally buried them on purpose because they knew that their voice was being silenced. Now, there's a lot that went out. There's a lot that went out of Christianity at that time. But the several factors I want you to focus on are, it was very misogynistic. The way they rewrote Christianity was heavily slanted against women. They forged arguments and words and attributed them to the Bible, to biblical times, to Jesus and to his disciples. They made them up. It's forged based on historical linguistic analysis, very different style of writing than everything else. And this forgery said women should be quiet. They should not even talk at church. They should only talk to their husband at home. They should follow his guidance on what is said. And it was forged. For those of you interested in a deeper dive, look at the letters of Paul. There were 9 letters of Paul found in bunches. They found multiple copies of these buried around the Mediterranean. But there are 13 letters of Paul in the Bible. And the last 4, you analyze them, totally different style. They're saying Paul said it. But it's all this, women should be silent. Women should not talk in church. Women should cover their heads. Women should follow the leadership of her husband or brother. Ugly stuff and bullshit. Now, the reason this matters is because what they created is artificial. It's out of touch with the teachings that were intrinsically inspiring to begin with, and it's out of touch with truth. It's lies, 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 lies. It doesn't mean the whole Christianity is lies. Jesus was awesome, but they changed what he was teaching. And it's important to be able to separate this because now we're trying to piece it together. We got a lot of people who are sick, who were raised in this tradition. And one of the most obvious ways that we're sick is that we've attributed this incredible ability to transcend death just to Jesus. And the reality is death is not the end. And you're not necessarily going somewhere else. You're probably coming back, and you've come back before, and you've come back before. Now, why does this matter? Let's take this in a simple form. You've got problems with relationships. Let's say you have a relatively common pattern. I'm looking at someone, my attention was drawn to somebody. So several people here, imagine, are stuck in unhealthy relationship patterns. You've had multiple relationships with the same kind of problems. So you vacillate between thinking the other gender is an asshole or your type are assholes and hating yourself. Probably, right? Going back and forth, back and forth. When you don't understand karmic patterns, it is very difficult to come to peace with why these things happen. When you do understand karmic patterns, it's quite straightforward. So here's how it works. Karma means momentum. So over the course of any one single relationship, you develop a spiritual momentum to how you interact, how you make love, how you fight, how you rest, how you take care of the home you share, if you share a home, how you socialize and relate to other people. All of these patterns develop momentum and they exist. It's karmic. And it's spiritual presence. This is not an abstract idea. It's present. It's in you. So if at a certain point you reach a threshold where you're like, this is too unhealthy, I can't do this anymore, and you break up, you still have the patterning in you. You still have those patterns in you. This is karma. Now, what does this mean? It means that you are literally attracted to someone who can relate to these patterns. You can't just abstractly decide to be attracted to an entirely different kind of person. You're going to be attracted to somebody who can relate to these patterns. So the healthy intrinsic drive is to re-experience a similar pattern of relationship in a preferable form. Now look at this. This is math. It's spiritual physics. You are magnetized to people who can play the role similar to a former relationship, but do a better job. They aren't as mean. They aren't as volatile. They aren't as violent, perhaps. They observe your consensual boundaries more. They're more compassionate. And yet, somehow they do relate to the same patterning, the same intensities, the same styles, enough that your karma matches with theirs. Now, if your karma doesn't match with theirs, you might like them. You might make a list of their values and say, hey, this is great, but you won't necessarily be attracted. And it's not because there's something fundamentally wrong with you. It's just your karma doesn't fit. And you can't change that with your mind. Now, for this to really set in for many people, you have to appreciate that it's not restricted to this lifetime. Now, you can analyze it in relationship to this lifetime, but many people don't actually end up in patterns that change enough in the course of one lifetime to recognize the perspective. So let's take an extreme example. Let's imagine in a former lifetime, you used to fight with your partner so much that you killed them. For real. You were living in a volatile era with a lot of violence. You were in the army, perhaps. You went off to war. You had PTSD. You got in terrible fights and you killed them. In this lifetime, you're not going to just be able to have a peaceful, happy-go-lucky life because you carry the karma of this volatility. Now, presumably, if you were able to be pushed to the point where you killed someone you love, there was also a lot of fights before that. The volatility was built in. It's rare, karmically, that things come out of nowhere. So what you have to do is relive similar patterns, but make a better choice. You don't act violently. You don't allow the thresholds of intensity of your arguments to become abuse. So you have to suffer more. You can't just vent on the other person. You can't just blame them for everything. You have to hold yourself and the responsibility you have for the karma you bring into this world. This is perspective, and you can apply it to all sorts of karma. You can't just dump karma. Now, I'll go out on a limb here and say, a lot of people want to. A lot of people are like, how do I get rid of this? I want a clearing that will get rid of all my pain and baggage. It don't work this way. You got to deal with it. If you have generated a pattern that's not healthy in this world, the world's not just going to let you dump it. She's going to make you help change it. You made that. Like, you made that. You can't just throw it away. It doesn't work like that. Now I'll go out on a limb even further and say, some of you have tried to just get rid of your karma. Well, look what that is. If you become conscious of your karma and make a prayer to just get rid of it, you have put your intention into alignment with something that's not really possible. This is not only inefficient, it's irresponsible. It's a budding spiritual awareness that's misused, and unfortunately, you'll get plenty of support because lots of people will talk to you about how to do it this way. A lot of people will even tell you they could get rid of your karma for them. Well, in a weird way, somebody else can hold your karma. They can. If I always have an urge to hurt someone else, I could find someone who's much bigger than me spiritually and just push into them. And my volatility will not have as much of an impact on them. But when this is the way you deal with your karma, you're not liable to understand that you're generating this energy. You might revere the person who's so big they can handle you, but you're not liable to come to terms with the fact that it's your responsibility to learn to turn this down yourself. When I offer to help you, and I do, I am here to make you live up to your own standards. You want to be free of this karma. You don't want to just not have to sense it. You don't want to just not feel the anxiety of it. If you're just trying to get away from the anxiety of your karma, you misunderstand. Your anxiety is likely there to help you understand where the karma is and how it's working. In many cases, bad feelings are necessary because they're present in a way that helps you commit to change. And if I were to just help your bad feelings dissolve, you would stay in the same pattern. And when you die, you would have to start over again with the same karma. Moksha means liberation from the experience of being driven around by the patterns of your past. The past is present, it exists. Now, here's the really good news. Over time, these patterns dissipate. Over time, if you establish a different pattern, the old pattern will lose its momentum. So the key is actually to stop investing in it. Now, that's easier said than done because, as we introduced earlier, you will have a magnetic attraction, not just to the people who know how to dance with your karma, but to the situations and the desires that feed your karma. So transcending old karma involves consistently being drawn into negative patterns and learning how to say no to them. Now, here's the good news. Sometimes there's a gentler way, which means you can learn to feel consistently drawn into patterns that are arguably not good for you, but you can learn to express them somewhat in a restrained way. So, for instance, you find someone else with similar karma who wants to change it, and you both work to express it in a way that's not as volatile, but you do get to live it out a little. This could make for a great fling for a year. Now, it's not going to last forever because if there's something fundamentally unhealthy about the pattern, you do want to let it go eventually. But sometimes cold turkey isn't the best way to go because your karmic energy is so strong that it's going to be dominant. It will dominate your life experience. Now, look, if some of this is going over your head, you can listen again. And you can get sessions with me. For those of you who are wrestling with these themes and it's taken years, I'd encourage you to consider doing 3 months of sessions. 3 months is enough to make significant progress. At that point, you could keep going or you could take a break. I've been working with some people for years now. And the commitment that I have when I work with you is that I can play this role. You can kind of bring your presence to me and I'll put up with some tension from you. It's work. That's why you pay me. But the gift of a teacher who can do this for you is that I can hold you. I can handle you. And some of you are sitting there going, nah, you can't handle me. I probably can. Appreciate the urge you may have to think that nobody can handle you it's adaptive. It's a strategy that people who've been through a lot of pain develop to believe that you're too strong for everybody else. And it's people say like, oh, I'm just always too much for other people. Yeah, because you want to believe you're too much for other people. Consider this. You're probably not too much for me. Now, I do turn some people away. I do. It happens. But typically, I don't even have to do it directly. It happens in the energy. So if you feel this now, consider that a commitment to work on yourself and to shed light into your patterns can make a dramatic difference in how you choose. Because once you know how to navigate and recognize what is and isn't healthy for you, you might make different choices. Are you up, down? Do you go through patterns that always get negative and then you say, fine, I'm not doing that ever again? And then you're abstinent for a while of whatever addiction. And then you flip back, up, down. Repression, expression. Now, this can happen in all sorts of ways: drugs, sex, socializing, partying, staying up late, eat food. Lots of different patterns can express themselves in this way. And if you're stuck in these up-down cycles, it's likely you're trying to wrestle with a karma that you don't know how to see appropriately. If this is the case, consider exploring the sessions pages and committing to some work. Now, appreciate the goal of a karmic study group, shall we say. The goal of karmic study is to learn to analyze your life looking backwards from a karmic perspective. So you learn to see patterns that have haunted you all your life, but you learn to see them in a new way. We can change the past by learning to see it through a different lens. And in most cases, this brings joy fairly quickly. Now, that might be shocking to hear, but be present with it. In most cases, people who want to do work on yourself are harder on yourself than you should be. And I want you to consider that because it's likely that you have been judgmental of yourself. You got a little tape in your head saying something along the lines of, what the fuck is wrong with me? For how many of you is this true? I urge you to comment or just in text if you're here live or in the comments below if you're watching on recording. Tell us, is this you? There's something powerful in being witnessed and acknowledging that you are judging yourself in this way. Now, look, it's coming from a decent place, usually. It's coming from the desire to own your shit. But that quickly becomes a reverse negative. If you're just hating on yourself when you make mistakes, likely you're not gaining the perspective to make a wiser choice. Here's what a wiser choice looks like. Yep, here's my karmic pattern again. You give up completely on thinking that it's just going to stop like that. Don't work like that. Your karma doesn't go away until you've reached a resolution and you're ready for closure. So once you stop like blindly throwing your prayers into the wind, saying, I want this to be gone, I want this to be done, and you start saying, what do I have to do to finish this? And you're somewhat cold-hearted about it and clear and deep. Then when the pattern comes up again, you're not shocked. You're not in trauma about it. And I can't underestimate how important this is. You start to develop more conscious and intentional ways to engage your karmic patterns as they arise, and you stop judging yourself. Judgment is not useful once you commit to work. Judgment's useful when somebody is avoiding responsibility. Like the judgment of a judge. You know, if you're going to avoid your responsibility for yourself so much that you think someone treated me like shit, so I killed them. They deserved it because they treated me like shit. Yeah, you need judgment of a person like that because they're not taking responsibility for themselves. But once you say, I'm willing to take responsibility for me and everything that's mine. I'm willing to take responsibility for this and all my karma. Once you say that with enough strength to remember it and repeat it, now judgment's not helpful anymore. Now judgment's getting in the way. Now judgment's like hitting yourself on the head. It's just distracting you from learning what steps are going to be most effective. Now, here's the really wonderful news. If you have a pattern that's karmic and you haven't known that it's karmic in this lifetime, you could trace it back to its roots. You look over the course of your life at the different phases and you start to analyze, how did it change? You start to recognize whether you've improved or maybe accentuated it. People can accentuate negative karmic patterns by essentially buying into them. And as you learn to see this for real, and you learn to, in your awareness, your consciousness will shift to say, this is not acceptable. You trace it backwards. And sometimes you get all the way to the root of this lifetime. Now, when you get to the root of this lifetime, there's a big step to take. And this step involves really transcending the belief that you're just you. You're just this name, this person, and what? What do you think you are? How do you know yourself? How do you know your identity? Do you call yourself your hobbies? People can know themselves by many things. It's all in your navel. Registers how you know yourself. And people can have a phenomenal range of ways of knowing themselves. But if they don't include a recognition that you've lived other lives on this earth, which most of you have, you're living in a falsity. Now, it's by design. Living in this kind of ignorance has been purposeful because it focuses on this lifetime in a way that helps us let go of negative patterns from the past. And yet the victory march involves cleansing your karma so much that you trace it to a root where you don't got nothing left to do except realize that you carried karma into this lifetime from a past life. And when you're at that point, it's a significant sign of progress because there's no way you could access that edge if you hadn't done enough work in this lifetime to loosen up your sense of self, loosen your relationship to what you are, and thus be free enough to make new choices now. And at this point, you will begin to experience your karma more and more as direct energetic presence. When you learn to experience your karma as direct energetic presence, you gain this ability to distinguish between what healthy is and what your karmic pattern is. Now, on a certain level, this is a daunting phase, and we're about to go into it next. And part of how we're going to go into it is by me introducing you to a fun way to engage with your body. So I have put this mat up against the wall. The mat goes to the base of the wall where I could use the wall. I would encourage you to sometimes practice your yoga, because you're all doing this, right? Practice with a wall, with a mat right like this, because there's a lot of ways you could build in this use of the wall in a natural flow where you keep going. And this is one of the most fun ones. This is one of the most fun ones. So I'm going to take this mid-level yoga break, and I urge you to join me. Down dog with your heels at the wall. Lift one leg. This feels really good just by itself. And then now, when you do this, you have the support of something. Yeah, I'm sort of showing off. When you do this, you have the support of something that you need. When you add trying to dance too soon. When you add the support of a wall to what you do as a normal part of your way, all sorts of things are possible that you couldn't do otherwise. If you just lift your leg, one leg, and let that support be leveraged, you can open your hip in ways you would never open it otherwise. Stay there. Stay right there. Add it to what you do. When you allow yourself to trust the support of a wall or a prop of a various sort, it liberates you to explore in ways you couldn't otherwise. And that's what a spiritual school can be. Look, I know a lot of you are wild. In way, that's who I want here. That's who I've always wanted to support. I respect and appreciate you for being wild, and I sacredly honor your ability to tune into your own guidance. That is, the entire design of this school is to put you in a better position to hear your own guidance. I never want you to revere or respect me in a way that would inhibit your ability to tune into your own flow. I am a guide. And a teacher, a spiritual teacher, to me involves pushing you out there on your own, maybe even more than you want. Because the gift of learning that the best guidance is in you is more important than getting some of the lessons right along the way. Be with that. Be present with the fact that there are a lot of lessons to learn. But if you only learn them from me, it's like spoon feeding. Here you go. Here you go. This, you need to do this. You need to feed yourself. But I can help you learn how. And we are building a community of people who do this together. And when you're able to ask questions of others and they're able to answer them in a way that's affirming, sometimes the gift of having your own guidance affirmed is incomparable. It's like, goodness gracious, of course you doubt yourself. Who are you if you don't doubt yourself? You should doubt yourself sometimes. We all need to. There's something to be said for working with your doubt, needing it like you need bread. Can you imagine this? What if you needed your doubt? I think this is a very underrepresented skill. A lot of people misuse confidence. And so they do the fake it till they make it sort of a pre-K version of law of attraction where you're just going to like focus on something positive and pretend nothing else exists. Poof, very ineffective in a certain way. If you work with your doubt, if you need it, you need your doubt. Imagine needing it in both senses of the word. You need your doubt. You're going to develop a deeper relationship with your faith. And ultimately, your faith leads into a direct connection with divine guidance. You have the best guidance for you. You absolutely do, and you always will. And I'm so honored to receive your trust with this guidance. When you know that the best comes through you already, you could take some time to say, let's help you put yourself in the best position to listen. There are certain techniques and approaches to living that can put you in a better position to listen and hear yourself. And as you develop an affinity for these approaches, you also get to tune in with other people who do this with you. As I said earlier in this, my commitment has always been to give the best guidance and information possible in the most efficient ways possible. I never want to keep you in doubt in a way that is not helpful. I never want to keep you below me in a way that builds my own ego. I want to see you thrive, and by all means, try exploring past where I've been. I'm not someone who always keeps everyone below in a hierarchy where I sit here all the time. We're more marching into the wilderness, and I'm 50. I'm not going to go into the most extreme challenges in a certain way anymore. I've learned a lot, and I'm here to help pull things together. I'm here to help navigate. And as we together step into the wilderness and develop safe ways of engaging with the natural spiritual reality on this planet, understand we need you to be you. Oh, did you see that one? That one just went whoosh. We need you to be you. We need you to be you, bold and beautiful and brave. But we also need to develop a culture, a community culture where nobody here should be competing with each other. I haven't seen many hints of it, and I don't want to see any hints of it. Really. This is of the past. This is BS of the past. This makes sense when we are living next to a community of people who are liable to murder us. And so we need to keep everybody strong and ready to fight. That's the only circumstances in which it makes sense to constantly push people to fight over power within a community. This is not what we do here. There are entirely different dynamics. And it's not just wildflower fire community. It's the future of Earth. We need to be working to unite in a very new and beautiful kind of way, where together we are tuning into the sacred guidance that binds and bonds us. Where together we are building a much more liberated, dynamic way of being with each other, with other human beings, where all of us start to hear similar guidance. And this happens a lot in the sanctuary. Frequently, I'm writing to someone and they're going, I've been thinking about that all week. It's beautiful because we are tapping into a sacred spiritual attunement that liberates us to be present with each other and still hear the attunement. So we're not mucking up the channels by engaging with each other. And if you haven't found why this makes so much sense, why this is so important, explore a little more. Because as we wake up spiritually, what we feed ourselves spiritually with the nutrition of the information we put into our minds can gunk up the system. If you start listening to the wrong people who have no intention of waking up or being compassionate or caring, you're going to ruin your own guidance. To develop ways to talk on the internet and in person, to develop ways to engage with other human beings where you retain your awakened status, where you stay awake. You're going out, you're going to the grocery store, you're seeing your friends, and you're staying awake. And you don't feel a compulsion to press them or push them or take them deeper than they're ready to go. And many of you probably do feel these things, yes? Again, I urge you to comment and share stories about how do you relate to the other people in your life who aren't actively talking spirit? They're not trying to develop a spiritual practice. Because one of the most common things people do is they become a little prophet, right? You get really excited and inspired by how powerful it is to learn about chakras, and you start wanting to tell everybody else about it. I want you to do this. I just want you to be able to discern whether someone's ready to hear about it or not. By all means, share your joy, share your inspiration, but don't fight with them. You need to develop this added skill of, are they ready? What are they ready for? How much are they ready for? And make no mistake, I would guess that most of you need to be sharing more than you do. But you probably gotten burned, right? You probably have at times tried to share and it ruined it for you. Or people fought back and sort of started accusing you of being too pushy. Or people thought you were weird. Or people thought you were crazy. In some way, there are a lot of ways you can get burned trying to share your spiritual experience. And I want to invite you to recognize there's a way to make this work where you're holding space, you're ready, you're clear, you're centered in yourself. You don't need to be convincing anybody of anything. You're more confident than that. You're at peace. You're more at peace than that. And you know how to take care of yourself. And now you're going out into the world and you're ready. You're ready to share when people are ready, and you're ready to gauge how much can they handle. Now, sometimes you got to push through, sometimes you got to push through, and you'll learn to recognize those times intuitively. And I invite you to look forward to this. I invite you to look forward to this. Now, I have for quite a while offered past life regressions to people, but I've only done it when people have been committed to working with me over extended periods of time. I do not believe it's helpful to engage this frivolously because our lifetimes are there. So you can, if you have enough of a skill and dimensional awareness, you can get there. You can see them, but it could be more confusing than good. When I offer this as a catalyst for transforming your life now to be better. No spiritual bypassing, none. And there are signs that I can discern with you that indicate whether this is actually a valuable process to go through. But I want you to be aware that I'm getting a message from my own teacher that it's time for me to be offering this more publicly. She's actually kind of gleeful about it. She has passed away, but she has been working to open and maintain a strong channel with me. And it's never worked this well. And so she's here as my mentor on a level that gives me a lot of confidence and inspiration. And she's funny, by the way. And her awareness was she served in this community that I live in, Ithaca, New York. Very heavily academic community, with all the gifts and curses this brings. I don't think she told many people she engaged in past life regressions. In fact, I know many people who worked with her for years who she never told that she did this. She raised it with me because it was necessary, and she raised it carefully because she knew that this community itself couldn't bear making this normal yet. But she wants me to help make this normal, which is, it's both funny and it's annoying. It's a daunting challenge, but I appreciate it because frankly, I'm able to tune in to the past lifetimes of other people enough to recognize where they are, where they rest, where their karma and energy come from. And it works far more effectively when people are ready. So if you are ready, this is something I offer through the normal session process. It takes a commitment. In most cases, I will ask you to commit to at least 5 sessions in order to go through this process to prepare you and bring you down. Now, I know other people do this more quickly, but I have to tell you, I don't think it's good for you. I don't think it's good for you to just unveil some details about a past life without thoroughly and deeply integrating it. And more importantly, why? What is your purpose? Because in certain circumstances, it can be crucial to face heavy past life karma. It's cutting into your reality. It's inhibiting your ability to live and choose and act and know yourself in this lifetime. This happens regularly. And there are ways we can sit down and discern whether this is true for you or not. You know feelings, an emotional state of being that seems to be just dissonant, out of proportion with your reality. You have memories, flashes of often traumatic interactions, maybe ones that ended in a death, your own or someone else's. And you can't get them out of your head, and they get in the way of how you behave in other circumstances. These are some of the signs that you really need to engage a past life in a way that can be deeply liberating. Deeply liberating. So if you're interested, contact. We'll see how it goes. Now, from this point on, questions if you got them and if I catch them. I can't always read them well, but I will check more frequently. I have shared the core of the themes that I've wanted to get through today. And so I'm available to like clear up and go deeper on any themes that some of you bring directly. Nomi, bless you. Thank you for being here. Yes, it is. Our soul energy is made in God's image. Light and love indeed. And you know what's so beautiful? We can't say light and love. Like, this is the thing, right? You can't say this unless you're at the threshold of unifying divine energy. When we unify crystalline energy, when we bring the many hues together, we get a complete spectrum of light. It is daunting to appreciate that what we are living is a consciousness that's been fractured. Separation does not just mean God's over there and we're here and we don't know ourselves as part of God. This is one consequence of separation. But a more practical way to appreciate what separation is that Gaia is a prism, and light goes through Gaia and refracts into these many different hues. And then we incarnate usually into one. You're yellow. The Buddhist, Taoist, Confucian traditions are largely influenced by yellow. It's a little more complicated than this. Native American traditions of many forms heavily relate to red. They carry red energy, the good red way. When you begin to connect the dots and recognize how practical this human name is, you start to realize what we're doing is we are reclaiming an awareness of ourselves on Earth as a complete spectrum of light. So it's different for everyone who was raised in every different culture, but there are so many things that are the same because the experience of having to break outside of the boundaries of whatever framework you were given. If I was given this Christian framework, I had to reach outside it. I had to peel away the husk, the protective layers that taught me not to trust other traditions, that taught me to see other traditions as an either or. And to take the essence of each and bring them back together ultimately brings us in touch with this rainbow of light. And this pure light consciousness, enlightenment, it's supposed to be more practical than people let it be. It's not all about climbing out of range of all other humans. In many ways, it's about being very simple. There's a reason they say before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The goal is to bring this light to life here in this body. And in many cases, this is what's new. So you come into Earth and you're pure light. And then when you incarnate, you have to incarnate into a hue. For various reasons, it really did need to work this way. But the goal is to incarnate into one hue and then learn to expand and reclaim full light again. And one of the best ways to do this is through your spiritual practice. Now, we edged into this, and I got excited about the wall climbing thing, and I overdid it. Forgive me. But the joy of being in a practice that continues to challenge you and engage you in more and more fun ways is that you can learn to directly engage your karma as energy. Now, when you don't engage your karma as energy, it's kind of got the driver's wheel. It's kind of got the magnet. Your karma is in here like attracting people. Come here, who will dance the karmic dance with you. Whatever your karma is physics. It's not moral, and it will just attract people who fit into your karma. Then it's up to you to bring the morality. It's up to your divine presence to say, I want to live this in a loving way. Well, one of the secret inroads to just an intermediate spiritual awakening journey is that you learn to feel your karma. You learn to feel the presence of your spiritual energy, and you learn to engage it that way. When you learn to engage your spiritual energy directly, largely through your practice, you take it out of commission. So volatile disagreements, that if you've had several relationships in which you've had volatile disagreements, and you learn either while you're in the relationship or after you've broken up, you learn to feel your resonance more acutely, then you can take that resonance into your practice and you take it out of the argument. So you will stop magnetizing people to fight with you because you're owning your energy. Now, this, I have to admit, at this point sounds simple to me, but I really appreciate and understand that this might not make sense. So consider asking questions until it does, because this is one of the greatest gifts of a spiritual practice you can imagine. For you get healthy, you enjoy it, you have a stress relief, you have a place that retunes you and brings you into greater harmony with your life and yourself and your body and your needs. And you have a place you can wrestle with your own karma so you don't start attracting people who make bigger messes in this life with you. Now, here's the thing. Trauma is one of the first things that comes up when you awaken spiritually. We cannot say this enough. Your trauma patterns come to the surface when you wake up spiritually. It's intrinsic, and it's helpful when you learn to engage them. But I wish most people, most human beings understood this. Certainly anyone within range of any other human being who's awake or waking up even just a little. There's a direct and healthy reason people start to awaken and they look like more of a mess, because you are. Before you wake up, you develop coping mechanisms to hold your negativities down. You develop coping mechanisms that often look terrible, but they are somewhat effective. So you develop addictions, and that's your response pattern to the rise and flow of the spiritual trauma energies. Trauma has its own energy. It's a karmic force in and of itself, but it's a pronounced force that's sort of an imprint of a very negative time or even a moment in time. That imprint doesn't go away until you deal with it. It doesn't disappear until you process it. Now, at a certain point, that can be as simple as needing to yell and scream and cry and be held. But it can be quite a journey to get to that point. And one of the greatest catalysts, one of the biggest ways you can support yourself is to appreciate that it's normal. You wake up, you access deeper truth, divine presence, you get excited. You should be excited. You feel like something really special is happening to you, and it's likely you're surrounded by people who don't get it. It's also healthy. This is designed to help you trust the divine and to stop needing other people to get it. It's a phase. And then negativities come out. Usually there's a pause. Usually there's a gap. So you could go through this positivity and then the negativities will come up in some way. Sometimes it's more mixed. But then at this point, this is when people often, they go back to bed. They pull the blanket over, they drug themselves, they addict themselves even more than they used to. They do something to try to make it shut up. And this is a cognitive mistake. It's a misunderstanding. It's a mental error that can lead to terrible extended periods of dragging out suffering. You need to recognize this is normal. The trauma is supposed to wake up, and it's waking up, it's coming to the surface so you can contend with it, so you can get it out. So you won't have to wrestle with it anymore. And trauma can be completed. Trauma can be resolved, so you're free from it. I cannot encourage you enough to register this, because this is one of the biggest steps you can take, just this shift in understanding. And then you build your resolve. I'm going to face this. I know this beauty. I know this divine presence is real. You start to teach your mind not to fight it. You can still doubt it, but don't fight it. Don't pour your energy into the doubt. Just wrestle with it. Need it. Wrestle and go, oh, of course you doubt. It's incredible when you've lived a life of bland normalness where your goal is to live up to this or this other teacher's expectations, or conform to your parents' patterns or whatever, and all of a sudden divine light breaks in. It's confusing, and I want you to keep going. We want you to build the faith, to keep going, retain it, breathe life into it. I'm just looking at someone else who really needs to hear this. Looking at your name in the chat box. When you build the confidence within yourself that all is well, this is how it's supposed to work, you can make much more progress, and you pull your energy away from fueling the negative pattern. And that alone could be a magnificent step. So check it out. Visit the website, witness the services we have available. We are now about to shift over to the membership space, but this is it's an open forum. It's free to join us in a meditation. And we do encourage you to commit to the membership space and stay where we talk daily. There's a wonderful range of discussion forums, live opportunities that are unique to the membership space, and videos and audio recordings where we're all talking about our journey. We're all sharing our questions. Including me. When I'm down, I share it. And hopefully that's a healthy permission and modeling for you, knowing that it's best if you be your full self. You don't try to posture. You recognize your feelings and move through them, and you honor other people's and witness them as they go through theirs, because we need each other. We need each other to do this. And way too many of us live in communities where no one else or only a few other people get it. So consider joining us. Go to the website, Sanctuary, and there's a link to join the live. We will be there quite soon. And I thank you for being here now today. I'm going to take a breath. I invite you to breathe in your heart. I am guided by a school. It's a church, it's a hospital, it's a temple. It's hermetic, it's aligned with Thoth. It involves many spiritual beings who have been present with him for thousands of years, helping to guide humanity. I tune into them quickly and easily, and I'm constantly changing direction or offering new forms of guidance based on what they teach, and restraining myself based on their insight and inspiration. You can learn to do this too. It's our goal. Much love. Be with you and your family. I will see you soon.